Hey everyone, Jason here, and today we're talking about holiday decoration safety in the hospital setting. We're going to talk a little bit about regulatory compliance and other standards that you need to follow, so stay tuned. Hospitals can be very busy places, so that's why leaders like us need to make sure that we're maintaining decoration safety not only during the holidays but throughout the year. So that's why hospital leaders need to make sure that the facility remains safe, not only for safety but for compliance. And so this video is going to provide you a complete guide to healthcare safety and holidays decorations, not only during the holiday, but during the rest of the year also. So decorating units is a common annual ritual throughout all the hospitals. So with that being said, we need to make sure that decorating is done safely. And in a moment, we'll talk about a list of some of the most important Joint Commission requirements and other standards that we need to take into account when decorating for holidays. So the 2012 edition of the Life Safety Code and Health Facilities Code and the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, identify the things that we need to look at for healthcare decorations. And these can be found in chapters 18 and 19, 7.5.6, and then in NFPA 2012, 20 and 21, 7.5.4. And there's actually two Joint Commission standards that kind of reference holiday decorations. And these are ECO2 0301. And that's just that the hospital is going to control fire risks and that decorations can, create fire. And so we want to make sure that, any kind of decorations, trees, wreaths, and so we want to make sure that, anything like that are going to be safe and that they're made to be in a healthcare facility. And then you have Joint Commission LS 020170 that addresses wall and door decorations. So that's going to tell you what you can and can't attach to the walls. As always, you want to make sure that you're checking your state and local organizations, your local fire marshal, and any other authorities having jurisdiction to make sure that none of their codes or standards are more strict than the NFPA or codes or requirements, because some of these can be more strict. And so anything we're talking about today is just general strategies and best practices. Always say first, engage your hospital safety officer and make sure that they are aware of what you're doing for your decorations. And a lot of times people think, oh, the safety officer is the Grinch, because they'll walk around the hallways and see decorations that weren't approved or non-compliant. And so they usually come up and tell the units they have to take them down. So getting with your hospital safety officer early on will help you take care of this and make sure that the decorations you're installing are compliant. And so they can also prevent secondary issues not related to the decorations, but such as blocked egress or blocked safety equipment that we need to make sure are clear at all times, which aren't in those standards we mentioned earlier. So in general, decorations cannot be hung from the sprinkler heads or pipes, even though they are kind of ideal places hanging from the ceiling. It looks like a nice place to hang something. We don't want to hang any decorations from those areas. Also, the ceiling grid and the ceiling barrier, the ceiling tiles act as a barrier, and so we don't want to hang things from them because they will hold in the smoke in the case of a fire, and any kind of holes or penetrations could let the smoke run through that and cause an issue there. Another thing, we don't want to have decorations on fire doors or the doors that are in an egress route because these are rated doors and they're not rated during the testing of the fire door to have anything attached to them. And so we want to make sure they're as safe as possible and we're not hindering any kind of safety mechanism that's built into that door. A lot of times you'll see in schools and other places, people will wrap the door of their classroom to make it look like a present or a decoration. We want to make sure all those are clear and not on any of our doors in the hospital because that adds to the fire load. Also, that could be a fire door, like I mentioned earlier, and you don't want to put any kind of fuel on that fire door. And then as you're looking at doors, we don't want to hang items from doors that have windows in them. The windows, or some people call them lights, door lights, are there for a reason, usually so you don't open the door and hit someone, or it's there for an ADA reason. So we want to make sure we're not blocking any of that and that the door is going to function as we want it to. And then lastly, your safety officer can also help you with visual inspection of any of your decorations that you're putting up. You want to make sure that all the electrical cords are in good condition and that they're rated. You want to make sure that they don't have any frayed wires or exposed wires, and making sure that the rating is a proven entity like UL listing, and making sure that they're not an off-brand that's going to be more at risk of fire. And then you want to make sure that none of these extension cords that you're using are daisy chained, what we call daisy chained. When extension cord is plugged into another extension cord or another device. So like a surge protector plugged into an extension cord, plugged into another surge protector. That's what we call daisy chaining. And we don't want to have any of that because those devices are not rated to be chained together like that. So we want to make sure it's just one device, one chain or one cord or one device to the whatever you're powering. Our second tip is that you want to make sure all your decorations are made from safe materials. So make sure that all trees, wreaths, other decorations are rated for fire safety. Make sure they're fire retardant or flame retardant, and that if it's not, you can treat it with a chemical, but I don't suggest that because if it's not applied exactly the right way, it could not serve the process that it needs to do. It's stated that fire departments respond to over 160 home fires each year that start from Christmas trees. And so that's just one area on why this is so important, that we don't have real trees or real decorations hanging throughout the healthcare facility. And then we also don't want to have garland or tinsel. While it can be fire retardant or flame retardant, garland and tinsel kind of gets in everything. And so it can act as a hindrance to airflow. And if tinsel gets on the ground, it usually becomes slippery, so that creates a slip hazard. So we just want to kind of avoid garland and tinsel altogether. Next, we want to make sure that all your flames are artificial flames. So we don't want any open flame or any real flame. You can use electric candles or battery-powered candles, and make sure that anything you have is not going to break or shatter. Using plastic ornaments or shatterproof ornaments is the best way to go, and that anything that's out for decoration is not going to cause a choking hazard. If a patient has a visitor that may be a young child, you want to make sure nothing's out there that they're going to get a hold of and cause any kind of hazards. And our third tip is placement of decorations. So when you're putting these decorations up, we want to make sure that we're not encroaching on any kind of egress routes or blocking any fire doors. So making sure that we exceed minimum requirements. You may read in different studies or even in the NFPA guidebook different standards, but we want to make sure that we're exceeding those and we're not trying to put anything at such a risk and make such a small gap to kind of make it a hazard. When decorating, we want to make sure that our combustible decorations are occupying less than 20% of a wall. So if you have a wall, just think of it, divide it in 5 sections, and 20% would be one of those sections. They do say you can go up to 30% in a sprinkler facility. I would just say stick to the 20% rule, and you'll be safe no matter what your facility is. And of course, this is in guideline with your hospital policies also. They may say no decorations on the wall. We want to make sure that all these decorations are 2 feet away from any smoke detectors or other fire equipment. These smoke detectors have a radius, and they're made to kind of measure air in certain areas. We don't want anything obstructing that airflow and maybe causing a false reading or maybe causing a detector to malfunction. Once again, staying away from sprinkler heads. Usually the general rule is 18 inches, but I would just say stay 2 feet away just to be safe. And that way you're not impeding any kind of fire equipment. And then making sure that you're not attaching the decorations to any lights. Like I said earlier, sprinklers are always there, and people sometimes attach decorations to them, and that's not a very good practice. But anything that's hanging from the ceiling, it could only be hung up by a couple screws, so you don't want to hang anything that may be heavy that could pull out that lighting fixture or electrical piece of equipment. Especially in hospitals, you have Wi-Fi access points, you have nurse call systems. All these things are, they look pretty handy to hang something from, but we don't want to do that. Then you want to look at your exits. So you look down your hallways and look for exit signs. You don't want to put anything in that hallway that has an exit sign. Now in patient care areas, there's an 8-foot corridor requirement. And then in non-patient care, you can go down to some other measurements that depend on if your facility is sprinklered or not sprinklered, but it's usually a safe bet to stay at least 44 inches width on your corridor if it's a non-patient area. So that would be your business occupancies, your accounting offices, and that sort of thing. They can go down to 44 inches, but it varies by occupancy and by your authority having jurisdiction, so make sure you refer to those codes for more details. Then you get into ADA requirements and some fire code requirements where things cannot stick away from the wall a certain inches. And so for ADA, nothing can protrude from the wall more than 4 inches. Fire code lets you go to 6 inches, So it kind of depends on what area you're decorating. Is it an ADA compliant area or not? And how far you can decorate from the wall. So that wreath hanging from the wall, if it's more than 4 inches, it may be non-compliant. And then we also don't want to have all of the extension cords laying across the egress or across any kind of paths that people are walking in regularly. So make sure you get a long enough extension cord you can go around the walkway or go along the wall to wherever you need to go. Next, you want to make sure anything you hang is firmly attached to the wall or wherever it's attached to. Using command strips and other things may be convenient, but they may not be strong enough to hold the weight of whatever the decoration is that you have hanging, and you don't want it to fall on a person or in the way during a fire or any kind of other incident. And then once again, don't cover fire doors or light panels. As I said earlier, that's just going to make sure that you're safe and we're not causing any other issues. And finally, you want to make sure any decorations you put up are put away within a certain amount of time. So after Christmas is over or the holiday week or New Year's Day, we want to make sure that we're putting all our decorations away and it's not becoming a monthly or 3-month long decoration period, that we can have a schedule and things are rotated out and put up once you're done with them, because that adds to fire loads. We want to make sure that everything is safe in that smoke area. If you found this helpful, I'll put a link in the description below of a checklist that you can get from Joint Commission, and that will help you a little bit on your next decorating project. So make sure to like and subscribe.